You know, every single workplace, whether it's a super modern tech startup or a huge factory, has these invisible leaks. They're these little drains on time, on resources, on money, and they're happening every day, right under our noses. But what if you could learn to see them? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. It's a pretty powerful question, isn't it? Because the biggest threats to our productivity, they're not usually these big, dramatic failures. Nope. More often, they're the small, repetitive, and what seem like harmless little habits that add up to huge costs and inefficiencies. These are the hidden enemies of getting things done. So to fight this invisible enemy, we first need to give it a name. And lucky for us, the legendary Toyota production system already did. It's called MUDA. It's a Japanese term, and it's this simple but really profound idea of identifying anything that uses up resources, your time, company money, materials, but adds absolutely zero value for the customer. Learning to see MUDA, well, that's the first step to destroying it. So how do we actually start seeing it? Well, Toyota didn't just name the problem, they gave us a toolkit. These are the 7 MUDA, the 7 classic forms of waste. Now, I want you to think of these as 7 different pairs of glasses. Each one helps you spot a very specific kind of inefficiency in your own work environment. Let's break them down. We're going to start with a group I like to call the too much wastes. This is pretty straightforward. It's all about having an excess of something you just don't need, whether it's too much product, too many mistakes, or just too much stuff sitting around. First up is overproduction. And a lot of experts say this is the worst of all the wastes because it causes so many of the others. So imagine a company that prints and folds mailings. The printer, it's a beast. It can crank out 1,000 pages an hour. But the folding machine down the line can only handle 800. So what happens to that extra 200 pages every hour? That is pure MUDA. It's work that's been done for no immediate reason, and it just creates a bottleneck and piles of stuff you don't need yet. Next up is correction. Ugh, this is the waste of having to do things twice. I mean, nobody likes rework, right? Every single time you have to fix a mistake, that's MUDA. Think about an insurance claim that comes in, but it's missing some key information. An employee can't process it, so what do they have to do? They have to stop, send it back, and the whole process starts over. All that extra handling and requeuing adds zero value. It only fixes an error that shouldn't have happened in the first place. And the third too much waste is inventory. Now, this is way more than just piles of boxes in a warehouse. Excess inventory ties up your money, it takes up valuable space, and it always carries the risk of getting damaged or just becoming totally obsolete. It's basically cash just sitting on a shelf, gathering dust instead of creating value. All right, let's shift gears. Our next category is all about movement. Now, these 2 forms of MUDA are really tricky because, honestly, they often look like productive work. But as we're about to see, unnecessary movement, whether it's of people or things, is a huge source of hidden waste. So the MUDA of motion is all about the unnecessary movement of people. This could be something obvious, like a factory worker walking back and forth to get tools, or, as we'll see in a second, it could be something that happens thousands of times a day right at your own desk. Okay, think about this super common scenario. A data entry clerk has to constantly click back and forth between 2 different screens just to enter information. That simple, tiny little click to switch windows, it seems like nothing, right? But it is pure MUDA of motion. It adds absolutely zero value to the data that's being entered. So what's the real cost of that one tiny, wasted click? Well, if you have 10 employees doing this thousands of times a day, that half-second click adds up to over 6 hours of wasted time every single day. At an average wage, that one harmless action costs the company almost $17,000 a year. That right there is the staggering hidden power of MUDA. Okay, so if motion is about people, conveyance is all about things. This is the unnecessary movement of products, materials, or even just information. Picture an expense report. It gets printed out, right? Then it's hand-carried to a manager for a signature, who then puts it in an envelope to send to a director, who then walks it over to accounting. The report is just going on a little tour of the office. It's not actually being processed. That is pure conveyance waste. It's a really simple but crucial difference to remember. Wasted motion is about people moving unnecessarily. Wasted conveyance is about things moving unnecessarily. And yeah, both might look like work is getting done, but if you put on your MUDA spotting glasses, you'll see neither one is actually adding value for the customer. All right, our final category. And these wastes are kind of sneaky because they're embedded right in the process itself. It's not about what you're making or moving, it's all about how you're actually doing the work. Overprocessing is basically doing more work than is necessary to meet the customer's needs. You could almost call it perfectionism waste. Here's a fantastic example from a healthcare office. To verify a patient's insurance, all a staff member really needs to do is confirm that the patient is covered. That's it. But instead, they spend an hour on the phone getting a detailed breakdown of every single benefit. And while their heart is in the right place, that extra time is overprocessing. It doesn't add any value to what's truly required. And finally, we get to the most obvious waste of all, waiting. Yep, any idle time when people or machines are just sitting around is muda. And we have all felt this one. Here's a classic office example. Your mouse stops working. But company policy says you can't just grab a new one. Nope, you have to submit an IT support ticket, and then you wait and wait for a technician to finally come and replace it. All that time, you're just sitting there, unable to work. Pure, unproductive waiting. So there you have it. You now know the 7 muda. And what that means is you've just been given a new kind of vision. It's like having a superpower, a framework to see the invisible waste that exists in every single process, all around you. So let's do a quick lightning round recap of those 7 hidden costs. We've got overproduction, making too much, too soon, correction, fixing mistakes, inventory, storing extra stuff. Then you have the movement wastes, motion for people, conveyance for things. And finally, overprocessing, doing extra unneeded work, and just plain waiting. These are draining efficiency from your workplace every single day. And here's the most important thing I want you to take away from all this. You don't need to be some lean manufacturing guru to start making things better. The real power of this whole framework isn't about having complex solutions. It's about the simple, almost revolutionary act of just seeing it, of learning how to finally notice the waste that was hiding in plain sight all along. So I'll leave you with this one question. Now that you have this new X-ray vision, when you walk into work tomorrow, what's going to be the first muda, that first little piece of needless waste that you spot? I promise you, once you start seeing it, you can't stop.